Hang on, let me make sure my camera stays upright. Okay, I think we got it. Here we go, welcome. Welcome everyone. All right, hello. Welcome to the first Watercolor Snacks demo. My name is Brianna. You can also find me as Dread Pirate Bree here on YouTube or Instagram. I'm going to have one eye on the chat. We've also got Lee, co-founder of ArtSnacks, in the chat there to answer any questions. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So this is a little sample of what Watercolor Snacks is all about. Now, if you are new here, Watercolor Snacks is a quarterly subscription box focused primarily on watercolors. So this is a box you receive 4 times a year. So instead of monthly box like ArtSnacks, it's quarterly. And right now we are in the spring box. So let me go ahead and show you what is inside the spring box today, and then we'll get started. So just so you know, this is just a very brief kind of demo of this. I have had this for a while. I've been working with this, so everything is already very well loved and very well worn. So it's not brand new, but you get the idea. So upon opening the box, you do get a full-size surface, full-size watercolor surface with every box. So this month was the Strathmore mixed media sketchbook series in landscape. So we've done a couple of really fun things here. And I believe there's 48 pages in this, and no, it's not mixed media, it's the watercolor sketchbook, my bad. I work in both watercolor and mixed media, but I love this sketchbook quite a bit. You then have a little bubble wrap baggie full of your supplies. The brushes are also included in that, but because I didn't have the protective caps, I want to be mindful and aware. So first up, we've got the King Art Premium it's a dagger brush, 3/8 size. And these are really fun for achieving some really great like leafy effects. The next we've got the Royal Langnickel Zen series, size 4. Is a beautiful kind of medium brush to work with. And then we've got the Winsor & Newton Synthetic Sable Round in a size 0. It is super tiny and it is super great. And then this other one here is actually included with the watercolors, which we'll go ahead and dive into. I just wrapped it in washi tape because it kept falling into my water. And then opening it up inside, we've got 2 Faber-Castell watercolor markers. They are dual tip, so you do have a nice brush tip right there, making sure I'm in focus. And then you've got a nice bullet nib on the other end. Now these are watercolor markers, but these are not to be dipped in water. They just are filled with watercolor pigment, and they are really, really rich, so they're very fun to play with. All right, we've also got the Sakura Micro Perm pen in a size 3, and it's super fine. Works really great with the watercolors. I love it. I love adding some line work. The pride and joy of this box is the Royal Talens Van Gogh series. This is an exclusive set curated for Watercolor Snacks specifically. And all the colors were handpicked by the team and meant to kind of represent spring. Very summery, springy feeling. Not a summery feeling, but a springy feeling. So there was a lot of greens involved. And then included was also some ArtSnacks washi tape here. Very fun, very decorative, and great for masking. Can I go over what we get every quarter with the box? Absolutely. And we also have the sticker right here, and then we have the menu, which also comes with a little tutorial on the back. So in every box, you do receive 1 full-sized watercolor surface, which would be the sketchbook this month. Or this quarter, I should say. So you receive 1 full-size surface. You receive various brushes. So far, this is, I think, the spring and the winter box have both had 3 brushes. You receive a full set of watercolors, which is also very curated for Watercolor Snacks. We handpick the colors here, and it's a full set. And the set will vary. In the winter box, it was watercolor inks. And then you've also got a couple of added bonuses here. You also receive access to the WatercolorSnacks community on the Mix group. Mix.artsnacks.co is a social media network for artists, and there is a private Mix group for watercolors snacks for people that join. And then in that group, you also get access to the classes that happen. So we do about 4 classes every quarter, and just kind of showing you how to work with your items in the box and teaching you various different watercolor techniques, which is what we're going to dive into today. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this. Oh, and also just to put this out there that currently WatercolorSnacks is open for US subscribers and Canadian subscribers. So we're not international quite yet, but there are options for US and Canada. All right, so let's dive into this. And I'm just going to be showing you guys a couple of things to use your watercolors with. I always like to have more than one clean jar of water available, because key to watercolors is making sure you always have clean water. Otherwise, the water can get very muddy. And we're going to go ahead and open it up. We're going to open up to a 2-page spread here. We're actually going to skip one. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Now, starting on one end over here, we're going to go ahead and work on a couple of florals. So spring is really, it's a time of growth. It's a time of, you know, going outside and being artistic with the paints around you and whatnot, capturing the nature around you. So I've thought that today would be really great to use florals with. So let's go ahead. Yes, it is open for Canada. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start this here. And if you always, I have an extra palette off to the side right here, just to make sure I have enough room. So, but there is plenty of room in here, your actual palette. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm gonna take some of this Pyrrole Orange and mix it with some of the crimson, no, the scarlet. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna try and get that a little bit of a poppy color going. So you notice I use 1 jar for rinsing and 1 jar for pulling clean water from. So we're add a little bit more orange, probably add just a little bit more yellow actually. Get nice poppy orange color going. Now with this, I'm taking my dagger brush here, and we're just gonna create kind of a poppy feel. And we're doing a wet on dry technique, which just means that I'm applying wet watercolor on top of a dry section of my paper here. And we're going to try and get a somewhat even wash here, as even as we can go. And we're just going to capture the basic outline of a poppy here. I'm going to show you how to do a couple of different florals, and you can add these floral techniques to any illustration that you are working on. All right, now while that is still wet, we're going to take the end of one of our paintbrushes. So we're not actually going to take the brush end, we're actually going to take the back end of it, and we're going to do what's called a scoring technique. So I want to be able to show that this petal has some veins and some folds and things like that. So starting while it's still wet, we're going to just take this, we're just going to drag it lightly down while our piece is still wet. And what this does is it actually creates a way for your watercolors to it creates a groove for your watercolors to fall into. Now this area dried quicker. It's a very hot day today, and the window is extremely hot, so everything is going to dry much faster today, but that's okay. So we've just created some natural kind of folds here into our piece. Whoop. And there goes my brush. And so by doing the scoring technique, that has allowed the watercolor to just go right into the grooves that you've cut out. We're going to do that same technique one more time. We're going to take our dagger brush, and we're just going to kind of create some beautiful swirl. Like, look at this dagger brush and how easily it swerves. Gorgeous. Dagger brushes are so much fun. We do try to make sure that each box is different from the last, so you're always getting a chance to try something new. All right, now taking that same scoring technique, we got a little bit of puddling here. So what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna take my brush here, I'm gonna dab as much of the moisture out of it, and then lightly just pick it up right there. So while taking a dry brush or a semi-dry brush to your puddled area, you can start to pick up some of the color that's pooled around the edge. All right, and if you want it to be a little bit more smooth, you can always add just a little bit more water. Make sure you spread it all the way around. This way it doesn't dry in some areas and it remains wet in others. And I'm just adding a little bit more water here. Now the puddles also can be your friend. Don't worry about them being there. They're going to be okay. It's part of what creates the organic effect of watercolors. So now we're going to go in with the end of that brush, and you can use any end to this, and we're just going to take it and we're just going to kind of create these little grooves for the paint to settle into. Now this area dried really quick. Again, that hot window. Would the dagger brush come back in rotation? I mean, it's always possible that dagger brush can come back in rotation, but I would say that it might be a while. But it's never impossible, because there are a lot of brush brands out there and a lot of things to try. I believe, Lee, are their dagger brushes still available in the ArtSnacks shop? All right. And now if you get what I like to call this little stain happening right here, this little drying effect right there, I like to call it as the coffee stain. Kind of gives like a little bit of a coffee ring effect. So by taking a damp brush, I've just wet my brush here, I've just dabbed off the excess water, but it's still damp. And I can take it and I can just lightly start to scrub it out into the rest of my piece. And if it's still not quite enough, you can always just take a more diluted form of that paint and then just fan it out from there. But those coffee stain marks are they are also your friend. You don't have to avoid them. You can embrace them because they create a natural, organic feel to your piece. The dagger brush the King Art dagger brush is still available in the shop if you were wondering. All right, now these elements are really great, especially if you combine them together. If you combine them if you combine the leaves with your flower, you have a beautiful arrangement. But let's say you want to get a bit more detail with your brush or with your florals here. So we're going to go ahead and achieve that. So by starting with a very light color, I'm going to reach for this yellowish green, aka like a lime green color. We're going to make a very diluted form of it, which is just taking some of the pigment and adding some water. And it's always good to have a swatch card available so you can always test your watercolors to make sure they turn out well. I'm choosing green because it's a really friendly color just for mixing with most colors. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create a kind of arrangement right here. We're just going to lay down a nice blob of color. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't have to be gorgeous. It doesn't have to be beautiful. In fact, I say the messier the better. And on some of these edges, what I also want to do is I also want to just kind of like lightly scrub it out because I want it to be faded. I don't want it to have such a sharp ring all around the edge. So we're just going to take a damp brush and we're just going to kind of scrub it out until it comes to a nice fade. The variations of the watercolors, that's part of the charm. I agree. All right, now we're gonna let that rest and we're gonna let that dry, which will not take long in this heat, so that's okay. And then while that is drying, what we're also going to do is we're gonna start another one. We're gonna start something similar to the poppy over here, but we're gonna do a different color because we have all these colors to choose from. So let's utilize it, yeah? What we're gonna do, we're gonna make a lavender color here, and now we're gonna take some of this cerulean blue, or this turquoise blue. It's a turquoise blue, that's right. And then some of this pink rose color, and then we're gonna just mix it right off to the side right here. And if you find that you're not getting quite enough of a palish color, you can add some more of that pink. There we go. Now by adding water to this, it's going to create the perfect diluted effect. There we go, that works well. All right, so now taking some of that and using my Royal Langnickel Zen brush, I'm gonna go ahead and create just a flat wash of a flower. I am not a flower person, so I don't know names of flowers very much, so you have to bear with me. I just kind of put down whatever comes to my mind and I just kind of wing it. All right, so we're gonna let that sit and dry after we make it a little bit more flat. There, because I love to work with flat washes. Sometimes you can just a great place to, it's like a launch pad. It's a great place to start. Is it possible to back order the specific box to get that curated palette? Unfortunately, no, not at this time. We had a couple of extra after the boxes had all shipped out, but they sold out really fast. There was only a couple on hand. And each box is very unique, so once they're gone, they're gone. All right, yep, it's very dry. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna come back to this little patch of green here. We're gonna take a couple of colors. We're gonna take a yellow, a crimson, sorry, a scarlet color, and then a blue. So you'll notice I'm pulling some primaries here. We have a nice array of primaries. And I want to make sure that they're not too saturated, and saturated just means like very pigmented. So I'm taking a water dropper. You can easily do this with a paintbrush, but I sometimes find I can get things a little quicker with an eyedropper. All right. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and lay in a couple little dots. And the best way to do this is just to dab your brush. I'm going to try getting all different corners. I'm not thinking too much about it. We're trying to create little clusters and details. And we'll do one more here with a tiny one over here. I like to work in odd numbers. Whenever you're dealing with nature, it's always best to work in odd colors because the eye adjusts to it much easier. Now the yellow is going to blend in kind of with that green, but that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It'll still stand out. I'm just going to do three of those, and then not going too close to the other colors. We're going to do the same with the blue. In fact, the blue needs a little bit more pigment to it, so we're just going to add it to that water. So everything that we curate for Watercolor Snacks is just for the box, and there are seldomly items left over. And there are limited available slots for Watercolor Snacks. There's only a certain number of slots for subscribers, so if you were thinking about joining, I would jump on that. And what I'm doing here is I'm just picking up some of the excess here. I want it to dry a little bit quicker. Yep, there was a little speck of purple in there. That's okay. That's a little happy accident. If you really wanted to, you could even take some of the purple and just add it to the other little blotches of red. In fact, why not? They don't need a lot, just a dab. There we go. All right. Yeah, it's almost done. So now taking our little flower bud over here, I'm going to take the Winsor & Newton paintbrush, and we're going to go ahead and take that same color that we pulled from earlier, but we're going to take a more saturated tone to it. And what that just means is there's less water and more pigment. This brush is really great for detailing. It's not great for holding a lot of water when you need to cover a big space, but it is great for detailing in the fine areas. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this color and lay it on top of our dried color, and we're just going to start to lay in some details. This is a really easy way to incorporate details in your flowers without having to do too much with shading and whatnot. But you can still get some nice variation. And because you're using the same colors there, it works really well. Stay till the end for a reveal of what's in the next box. Yes, we will be revealing an item from the next box, which will be shipping out in the beginning of August. Right. And there we've created some detail within our little bud right there. Right. Now, while this one over here is still drying, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make a cluster of leaves. So by taking the Royal Nickel Zen brush, we're going to just start to lay in some little blotches, some kind of controlled directional blotches. They're not going to touch each other very much. They might in a little bit, but that's okay. And we're starting with the lightest color, and I like to start with the lightest color because with the general rule with watercolor is you always start lighter and work darker. And that's because you're meant to pull from your your highlights from the white of the paper itself. You'll notice while there is white watercolor available, it's not always common to find. And the reason being is because you're meant to pull your whites from your lightest parts from the white of the paper. So always start lighter and work darker. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, Lee is in the chat, and I am catching them when I can. But we are here to answer any questions you may have. All right. Now, while that's settling, we're going to come back over here, and we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more variation there. So I'm going to take that green again, but we're taking a more saturated tone, and we're going to kind of do the same thing. We're just going to kind of lay in some leaf blotches, but I'm going to use a smaller brush instead of the Royal Nickel. And you'll notice I'm actually just picking it up straight from that little puddle that I first laid down. Sometimes you can do this with watercolor. If you've maybe laid down too much color in an area, you can just easily pull from it rather than picking it up and, you know, dabbing it in your paper towel. It's a really great way to spread the watercolor without overuse. And there's really no rhyme or reason. We just want to create some variations here. I'm trying not to overlap too much into the flowers because when I've done that in the past, I noticed that the colors end up being really muddy. So until the flowers are fully dry, I'm trying to just kind of let them rest. With things like yellow, I'm not as worried about it, but for red and blue, a little bit. And then if you wanted to avoid some of that harsh blotching there, you can just easily just take it and just kind of scrub it out. Scrubbing things out is one of my favorite techniques. Now our yellow has kind of faded right there, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just add a little bit more. It's all about the layering. Everything with watercolor is all about the layering and knowing where to start with the layering. Now to deepen out our reds there, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of the scarlet and we're going to go ahead and just blotch in a little bit more. I think we're going to add just a tiny bit more pigment because we want it to be a little bit stronger. And we're going to go in like some various directions here, kind of keeping it wild, keeping it loose, but it's helping to create some more dimension and some more value. And while that is drying, we're going to go ahead and go back over to our little leaf patch right here. And we're going to pull from a darker green. So we're going to take this sap green here, which is always important when working with foliage, in my opinion. Sap green is my best friend. We're adding some water to create a little bit more fluidity to it while not losing the color too much. And then while there are still areas here that are wet, but some of them are starting to dry. And that's usually a good time to start to add more because then you get this beautiful bleeding technique right here, which is just wonderful. And exactly what we like. We're just going to kind of fan it out a little bit. I feel like I'm making a little bit of a shrub. It's a little shrub on a lawn right now. And then we're going to take a darker green. We're going to take this grass green color. And we're going to go ahead and just add just a little bit because this is the darkest green of the batch and we don't want to overrun it too much. We want to kind of keep some natural variations in the color. I'm going to just pick some of that up right there, just roll that in, pick it up. Now you'll notice I am leaving some white specks in between, and that is because white is your friend, especially when you're dealing with foliage like this. You want the light to be coming through. You want the light to be shining through because if you were standing under a tree, you would notice that there are patches of light kind of shining through the leaves, and that's the same kind of effect that we want for these. Now I've got a couple minutes left here. for the demo, and then I'll show you a reveal. I'm going to show you really quickly how to make a pine tree, silhouetted pine tree. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take that sap green. Why not? Because it's my favorite. We're just, with the Zen brush, we're going to go ahead and start right here. We're going to start from the top. We're just going to do little patches right there, and then in a zigging motion, actually I forgot, we're going to add a line first. This is going to be our grounding right here. This is going to be our direction panel. And then while you want to move kind of quick because you want this to be happening while it is still wet, while that line of paint is still wet. And we're just going to kind of go in a zigzag motion. Try not to overthink it, and if you need to get more of a variety of randomness going, hold your paintbrush higher on the handle. This will give you less control in a sense and will help it to be more organic. And we're just gonna, you notice we're kind of just zigzagging our way down. We need a little bit more water. Ooh, everything is drying fast today. And we're just gonna kind of zigzag it all the way down to the edge. We're keeping some of those highlights in between the trees. And then with a wet brush, we're just gonna take it, we're just gonna go ahead and fan it out along the bottom, kind of bleeding that color down kind of into a fade. Now this works really great. You can do this in a black color over a colored background, or like a dark purple, something of the sorts. We're gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of the grass green, just in little areas while it's still wet, kind of the same principle as up here. We want it to kind of have some more value. And there we go. We've created our own little shrubbery tree. Likely. No worries. I mean, even starting World Watercolor Month is still a success. Coming back over to our flowers over here, we're going to add some more of that blue color to the centers of our little petals right there. And we're going to deepen out some of the foliage. And what we're doing here is we're creating some variety with the flowers and the leaves, and just kind of like a bush of florals right there that you can then apply to any illustration you're working on. If it can be, you know, the front yard of a home, or wildflowers in a meadow, or if you are like me and you like to combine it with, you know, other fantasy elements, you can easily add it to whatever animal or fairy illustration you're working on. This is just meant to add some texture to it. Add some texture to your piece and some color. Now, I would normally be adding even more, but I'm limited for time and it's not drying quite as quickly in these particular areas as I would like. But these are some of the basics that I use when working with watercolor, and I'm wanting some foliage and some life for my pieces. You can apply all these techniques anywhere. Yeah, so there we go. So that is what I have to offer you for a demo today. And now it's time for a reveal of something coming from the summer box, which I'm sure you guys are going to be very excited for. So, like I said, I like to keep it all different. Now, I don't have the actual item here. I'm just going to be sneaking to you the brand, rather. Not so much the colors this time, but it's more of the brand. And the brand coming in the summer box is from our friends at Daniel Smith. So this is the brand going to be featured in the summer box. I kept my little logo sticker from a previous collection box to show you guys, but yes, summer will be featuring Daniel Smith. The set, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I will say that the set is curated. It's curated by WatercolorSnacks. So the color selection will be unique to WatercolorSnacks, or the color curation, I should say. And the best, yes. And we've also, coming in the summer box, we have 3 brushes coming. So you will have plenty of range to work with. And I do want to just let you guys know first, since you guys were the ones that showed up for the live stream demo here, is we have less than 100 slots available for the summer box. So there's about a month to sign up, and you could use the code THANKS10 to save 10%, and that works on your quarterly subscription or your annual subscription. But use the code THANKS10. My words are all over the place. Use the code THANKS10 at checkout when you subscribe, and you'll be in time to receive the summer box. You'll also get access to all of the previous and upcoming live stream classes for the summer box. Sorry, for the spring box. Summer and spring, I mix them up all the time. Lee says the colors are so hot from Daniel Smith. Yes, they are. It is a very exciting palette. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are excited as we are. We are very excited about this. And that is what I have for you today. If there were any other questions, feel free to drop them into the box. I'm going to come back to our little piece over here just to see how well it's doing. For the sake of drying it out, I'm just going to take my dry brush right there. We're just going to kind of dab it up, and it's going to dry real fast after that. If you are new to watercolors and you aren't quite sure why Daniel Smith is so exciting, is because they are pretty much one of the top watercolor, they're one of the richest watercolor brands, like, and rich by I mean color, like they're one of the top watercolor brands out there. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Jessica. When is the cutoff to get the summer box? Lee, do you know when the cutoff date is for the summer box? Because the first box ships, summer box ships first week in August, end of July. So you have all of July to sign up for the summer box. However, those slots might fill up fast. Again, we have less than 100 spots available. So they might fill up fast before it's, before the admission to be able to sign up. I can't think of the word, before it closes. Yes, end of July or until we sell out. You just got the ink box. Excellent. No worries, Rachel. Well, we've got all of July. Thank you guys so much. The code is THANKS10. I'll write it down for you. Thanks. My handwriting is too big. THANKS10. All right, ignore that one. It's just THANKS10 at checkout. Lee's got it in the chat for you, so you can probably just copy and paste it if you needed to, although it's pretty easy to remember. So yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in today and joining us with this watercolor demonstration. I'm sorry I didn't get around to doing the actual markers themselves, but yeah, and stay tuned for the summer box. I'm looking forward to it. All right, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your week. It is Monday today, so here we go. All right, bye, everyone.